Good morning, good evening, wherever you are across this beautiful nation or around the world. This is Deja Brew, and we are waking you up to truth. Today, I have a special guest, James Roark. Welcome to the show and take the floor. Introduce yourself.
All right, yeah, I'm James Roark, aka John Mike. I'm a musician. Um, that's not like my main job. I do work in 9 to 5. I'm also like a I forget the term you use to describe a self learner type deal. I do have a Harvard certificate for Christianity and the scriptures. I also love doing videography. I do, like I said, music. I do graphic design, all types of art. I One thing about me is I wanted to learn the world, and so you got to learn how it works. So I've dug all types of rabbit holes as far as economics, law, religion, the whole 9 yards, and I've learned a lot throughout this whole thing. And it's funny because we see what's going on in the political realm today and everything that's coming to be, all the conspiracy theorists are true. And I mean, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I follow geopolitics and I've come to the conclusion that, hey, this is what's truth. I'm a very unbiased person. My mom always said, oh, you should be a lawyer. I'm like, I should be a judge because I'm very just and unbiased. I could disagree with someone and still love you, regardless of what it is. So yeah, that's no.
Right. That's great. And that's where it's at, too, right? We've got to be able to come together, put our knowledge that we've gathered from going down different rabbit holes together because we all have pieces to this puzzle that makes a really big picture where it all actually fits together, right?
It does. It really does. Everything's connected.
Yeah, it's so crazy how it's really all connected. I used to think, oh, I really love alien stuff. I really love Bigfoot stuff. I really love learning about geography and geology and giants and all these different things, right? And religion, like I studied all the religions of the world, and then lo and behold, all of it, including the political stuff, is all connected.
It
I was
is.
like, mind blowing.
And even worse, the whole thing revolves around Saturn, aka Satan. So, you got the Lord of the Rings, which is Saturn, has the ring around it. And it's Northern mythology. A lot of the systems with the law, the courts, and business, it's all based off like a religion, and it's maritime law. That's one thing I've dug pretty deep into, and it's the law of the sea as opposed to the law of the land, because our main
Mhm,
form of commerce was back in the day before anybody could read and write was the rivers. We used ships and everything. That's how
mhm.
um, commercial was. It was all shipping. So you have the man manufactures the women ships and delivers the product goes through the canal, the birth canal. Um, it goes through its birth. It sets at the dock. It gets its certificate of manifest. And then when you start studying all the satanic stuff that goes behind Northern mythology, and well, everything is just like based out of this. It's mind blowing, but it's all connected. It connects everything all together. Hollywood, everything.
All of it. Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you brought up the maritime law thing too, because when I first realized that we actually still go by maritime law and then like birth certificates and marriage certificates, all of those things are connected to maritime law, not land law. And that
Exactly.
blew my mind. I
And,
was like,
and
what?
yeah, and it's hard to debate with people because like we're gonna debate whether it's regular law or if it's maritime. So when like someone asks me, "Oh, what about gay marriage? Do I support gay marriage?" And I'm gonna be 100% honest. I'm a 100% conservative Republican, and I actually had a podcast myself on this where I'm talking about the two parties, the left versus the right, really, and it's pretty much good versus evil. But yeah, so I'm the
Yep.
right hand of God opposed to the left hand of Luciferianism, but. Um, Forgot where I was going with that. It just opens this whole realm. I could go to a million directions right now. So sometimes you might
So
have
you
to.
you actually were going to say something about your opinion on gay marriage for
Yeah,
some.
the gay marriage. There you go. Okay, yeah. So we gotta really distinguish the law we're talking about because people were like, well, I'm like, I don't support the state marrying anyone. They're like, what do you mean? Like, that's not the state's thing. Marriage is a religious ceremony. It belongs in the church. If someone gets divorced, it should stay with a pastor who could actually has more well meaning to divide, to handle divorce correctly, and the parents, the kids, and all that stuff. They can handle that better. So I don't believe, yeah, the state shouldn't be in
Mhm.
anything. I mean, we want a bare minimal government that works for us like it was meant to do, and that's protecting life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They only got so much jurisdiction that, cover the borders, all this different stuff that we want the government to do that's doing, but the maritime commercial aspect has really influenced it and opened the jurisdiction to realms that shouldn't be in, like, abortion, medical, schools. That's why I like the whole ending the the school thing within the federal government. I can't even think of the term right now.
Right. They're like their core, whatever it is, curriculum that they make
Department of
everybody.
Education. Yeah, Trump's talking about he wants to end the Department of Education. Yeah,
Yeah.
federal government has no jurisdiction. That should be at the state's level.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree 100%. Um, I homeschool my kids. I have 7 children total. I have homeschooled all of them except for the oldest one. She was already in the public school system and just really didn't want to get out. So I let her remain there and graduate. But the other 6, I have homeschool. I had to go through the state to get my homeschool license, right? Not the federal government, the state.
Yeah,
That's who gave me permission to be a homeschool teacher for my kids.
yeah.
And that's where it should stay, is on the state level. The federal government, in my opinion, as well as yours, I agree 100%. They don't have any business in our education, our medical, any of those things. They should have very basic, limited rights to what they can say about what goes on in our country, and the rest of it should be up to our state representatives and
Oh,
we the people. 100%. Marriage included. I love that you said that the church and the pastor or the preacher is who should have the authority on the divorces and all of that as well. I mean, they're the one that has to marry you, right?
exactly.
You got to have a legally certified minister, ordained minister to marry you, or it's not recognized by the state as legal.
Hmm.
So it should be up to the preacher or the pastor or whoever to grant the divorces, be the mediators or the counselors, whatever is necessary. Like, it should be given back to the churches, and church and state stay the hell out of each other's business, or
Yeah,
stay the
yeah,
heaven out.
yeah. A lot of people, yeah, that's one argument I hear a lot too, is the separation of church and state. When you actually read the founders' documents, the Federalist Papers, that it's actually to keep the state out of church, like because a lot of the
Yeah,
state based off of church, it's a creator. We're all made in our rights are inalienable by God. Not the government.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
Even our Constitution is based on natural law
exactly.
given to us by God. Yeah,
Hmm. So
carry
yeah,
on. Sorry.
like that's the one. So like the separation of church and state is like a halfway thing to what people think it is. And that we have to remind people too, like um, with this whole states' rights, it's like the Roe versus Wade people. They don't really understand that like this is actually a good thing because the government, like we said, what's the government's job to protect life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now,
Yeah,
it's abortion. Why do they want to protect people? There comes a point in time when does that baby have constitutional rights, and that's where the argument. That's why they don't want to meet the argument. They get all right. They want to
hmm,
they go post birth abortions. It's opening.
right.
Let's put down the old people because they're dependable. No, we don't. That's not right.
Yeah.
Righteous.
No, I agree 100%. And I mean, I'm a woman, you know, I've had 7 kids. So I get the whole point of it's my body, it's my choice, from the perspective of, like, I didn't like the doctors and the nurses telling me what position I should be in to give birth and all of those. Like, they should have just left me the hell alone, let me do what was most comfortable for me. You
Hmm.
know, I hate it when they try to strap you down to give birth. That pisses me off. That's why my last one was a home birth, actually, because I didn't want to do that again. But at the same time, You can't just say your body, your right if you're growing a child inside of you because that's another living, breathing human being.
Mhm.
And though your body is their host and their life support, in my opinion, they already have a brain, they already have a heart from what, like 4 weeks,
Mhm.
something like that. So
Yeah.
by the time you know you're pregnant, you have another human being in you, period. And that human being deserves rights. That's my opinion.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like even then, I do hold a strong belief myself on like like maybe 4 weeks. But that's the problem. Like they don't want to. The other side doesn't want to come and meet halfway on this and like take it to the. Then that's where the states come into play, or it's perfect. It's
Yeah.
the best solution. It because they brought it up in the debate, and I'm like, why are we talking about this? It's irrelevant anymore. Like
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, a good way to come to a happy medium on that would maybe be to bring our pregnancy tests into the 21st century and have something that could detect you being pregnant within a day or two. And then you can make a quick decision, right?
right.
You know, versus waiting until they're 4 months pregnant or 6 months pregnant or whatever that is. Because I just, and I get it. People have that right to argue their opinion on it. That if you've been assaulted and that pregnancy was the result of that, or whatever
Which
that looks like for them.
like most of the states, maybe like Texas, okay, it's a little strong, but yeah, most is covered by. So that's like why we and they're demonizing that, and just like why,
Yeah.
we're forcing them, like you said, we're forcing a medium, like come this way a little bit with us, and it's like no, we want to kill everybody. We're Nazis.
Well, and I've got my own, conspiracy theory on that too, because it's all about the body grab. I'll just say it that way.
Right.
They like they're the body snatchers. It's the invasion of the body snatchers.
Yeah.
I feel like we're truly living in that movie right now with all the I mean, because that's what the border really is all about. That's what
Oh
all this
boy.
illegal immigration stuff is really all about. Well, that's a two-part thing. I mean, they also, want to make it worse for us,
Yeah.
but it's
And that's
intentional. It's all intentional and it all has a plan,
yeah.
right? Because there's something like 384,000 immigrant children right now that are unaccounted for. They don't know where they are. Oh,
Yeah.
how convenient, right?
The
How
CPS has the
convenient.
same problem too. They have kids that turn up missing. Like it's wild. And that's one thing is like now that I'm an adult and I can look back throughout my life and think about when I was a kid, that okay, evil didn't really exist in your mind like that. But now that you're older, like
Yeah,
there is this layer of hell that exists on the earth that people don't see or know about. And
yeah,
I've been one of the unfortunate ones who's got to see some of that layer of hell just through pictures. But yeah, like the sex trafficking and everything, and there's stuff we don't even see. Just talking about it is just so horrifying, let alone seeing it.
yeah,
It's kind of
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a rabbit hole I ended up in pretty deep, and
it
it
boils
it
back
aff-
down to
it
it.
it affects you pretty deeply.
Oh
You
yeah,
know, I mean, it's mind warping shit. I don't recommend that just anybody. It's not for the faint of heart, for sure.
oh for sure.
That's a dark, deep hole. That's
Yeah.
a dark, deep rabbit hole. So yeah, and the odd thing about it is, until just recently, even though I was so aware of that kind of stuff going on for several years now,
Hmm.
it wasn't until just the past couple of weeks with all the P Diddy stuff coming out
Yeah,
that people have actually used the term that trafficking humans is an industry.
yeah,
Like it's and probably the biggest industry. And I'm like,
billions.
what? I mean, like I can't even believe like I know that it goes on and I know how rampant it is even.
Hmm.
But to hear these official people calling it by that word, industry,
Yeah,
I was just like it made it very, very, very real, you know?
and and that's one thing. Yeah, I don't know if you ever seen the meme with the guy who takes off his glasses, puts them on, and he sees a whole different world when he puts them on,
Oh
and
yeah,
that's
they
totally
live.
yeah. Once I got to see all like the Pizzagate stuff, I've seen quite a bit of it. And
Yeah.
that's where the glasses come on. Like now, when I see a Billie Eilish, I've seen one of her videos, and I'm like, wow, like that has the human trafficking written all over it. I'm assuming, but
Yeah, it's crazy shit. Look, I had to go get my glasses.
yeah,
I have them.
nice.
It's from the movie They Live.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's a good movie.
Yeah.
And that shit's even real. Like the Lizzie people, the Lizzie people are real.
Yeah.
And that creeps me out, man.
I've yeah, I've heard so many different like theories, and some of the ones like it some is like I don't know, but at the same time you can't really rule out anything because the more you learn, the more questions that come up.
That's true. And for the longest time, like I'm a big fan of David Icke. Are
Yeah.
you familiar who? Yeah. So for like 20 years or 25 years, he's been talking about him. And that was the one thing about him that I was just like, I don't know if I can get on board with that. That just seems too sci-fi or something, whatever. Even though
Yeah.
the Slee Stack in the stupid, B-rated TV show when I was a little kid called, what was it called?
With
I don't
David.
know. I'll think of it in a minute. Land of the Lost, I think, maybe.
Oh,
Anyway,
okay,
they had
yeah.
these sleep stack things, right? They were fake ass costumes. But
Hmm.
every time I would see him as a kid, I was terrified for some reason. Never got it until until flash forward. What was it like? Maybe I don't know, 13 years ago. I literally met one. Like I met one face to
Oh yeah.
face, no doubt about it. That's exactly who this dude was.
Oh.
I mean, he's showing his true self. I didn't need no damn glasses.
I know
And
that.
I was like, "Mm-mm, nope, run, run."
Yeah, because people ask like, "Oh, is the demonic possession is that real?" And I'm like, it's a little more prevalent than what most people realize. Like I said,
Yes,
bring up, oh, a pro-abortionist that the government has a right to protect life. You'll see demonic possession right there. Like it's visible. I endure it a lot just because like I like to teach on creation and going onto the right, the Republican, the pro-Trump and all this. So like I deal with a lot of demonic possession or TDS or whatever people call it, but it's
right.
possession.
Yeah, it's very real and it's very present in everyday kind of people.
It is.
Like everybody thinks, oh, if you're demonically possessed, it looks like the Exorcist movie. Nah, dude,
No.
it ain't like that. They're walking around, talking to you, cutting up, hanging out,
But
seeming
their soul
perfectly
is
normal
dead.
until something triggers them, and then you see the demons.
Yeah, like and it's like their soul is dead when it happens. Like when you talk to them, you don't feel a sense of soul.
Right,
And then
right.
the way they get angry so much out of nowhere, it's like, whoa, like yeah, there's something wrong there, and that's why I believe like systemic like drug abuse,
Yep.
alcoholism, all this stuff. It pertains right back into demonic possession because like you're kind of
Yeah.
being controlled. It and it's sick and evil, and people don't realize until they get out of it, and it's sad. But
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, I've watched it ruin many people, and I've watched them collect more demons along their way.
yeah,
The further down the hill they go, and back in the day, they used to call all of the different whiskeys and liquors and stuff spirits,
yeah,
right? And that I mean they did that for a reason because if you're not in a good place and you have a drink, like if you're not like a stable, I personally feel like if you're a stable, um, you done cleaned out your closets, done your shadow work, good
hmm
grounded kind of person, you can have a drink and have a great time,
oh,
right?
exactly, yeah,
But if you're not any of that and you have a few drinks, people are going to see you're ugly. I mean, it's going to come out. And it's the same thing with drugs. Like even people on the street or that make music about drugs, they call all the different drugs by their different seductive names, right? Because like
Yeah.
heroin's got its thing or whatever. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You know what I'm talking about. Like
Mhm.
they
I know.
know that they have their demons, right? That drug is their demon. And that's some real shit.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I got my demons too, so I ain't gonna lie.
Well,
But
I don't call that demons. I just call that a habit.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Because
Some habits are
I mean,
business to me, but
I
and,
smoke cigarettes.
and that's
I
one thing
roll
about.
my own.
Oh, nice. Hey, that's
Yeah.
you'd be surprised they are healthier. They don't have as much as the chemicals and stuff. So
Right. Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
because I even health, I'm really big into health too. I actually work for Whole Foods, so like I'm really big into health. I've studied a lot into that. I kind of want to talk about some stuff with that as far as like parasites and all that, like and cancer
Okay.
and not at that too. Like even with the religious aspect, like I love following the Bible, and granted, it says it's best not to do it. You know, like it tells you don't do it, or to what you're saying, like you can do it and still be a decent human being, but yeah, but that then
Yeah.
gluttony kicks in. Too much of it, it's gonna kill you.
Right.
The seven
Right.
deadly
All things.
sins.
Yeah. All things in moderation. Because even
Exactly.
something
Yeah.
that's good for you, too much of it can be unhealthy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Me, I believe someone could keep their salvation. Either God could take you to heaven and crown you, or he could crown you and take you to heaven, you know. It's kind of your choice. Like the seven deadly sins, like those are sins that can kill you. It doesn't mean you're not going into heaven or get salvation. So it's like a lot of small details in that. Like I love talking about with the Bible and religion. Um, but yeah, like I said, I could go into all bunch of different aspects at this point.
Right.
Like
But like with let's say I'm eating celery every day because celery is really healthy for you.
oh
Okay.
yeah,
But I don't eat other things that I also need. Well, then eventually I'm going to be malnutritioned because I'm not getting enough of the other things because I'm just eating celery. And celery is perfectly good for you.
yeah.
So
And that's
it's
exactly
just a
what it is.
balance. Yeah. It's
Mhm.
it's just partaking in a balanced way.
Yeah, and that goes into the whole evolution theory. Like, how can you even find it logical to think like everything came from one? Like, we everything's symbiotic to each other. Like the
Right.
bees need to pollinate. The pollinate needs to be. It's all
Yeah.
like universal and it's kind of circulatory. It's obviously a creator did it, but yeah, and that's with health. Like, how can anyone explain the evolution of the human's reproductive system, its internal heating, its immune system? You know, you have all these systems like that work, and there's no absolute way to even explain it without a
Yeah.
creator, you know?
100%. Yeah. Definitely intelligent design.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
I
that's
mean, we
what I think
still
the beauty of the world.
yeah, and like our greatest doctors and scientists right now still to this day don't understand how a woman actually does become pregnant. They don't understand the human brain. Like
Mhm.
they don't understand all of this what they call junk DNA, right? Which actually can
Like,
be activated by meditating and,
yeah,
you
they
know,
find out that there are
raising your
uses for it.
vibration. Cause yeah, it actually kicks on in people that meditate and that,
Yeah, you could
are
activate.
more balanced, you know, they got their chakras clear and they're all in tune and everything.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, like
Yeah,
yeah, you know all about that. Like and the way the electric system of the body too, like every the light, and that's where you say like with
right.
the whole birth thing, like there's something with the light that happens that, and that's the same thing with God. Let there be light.
Yeah.
There, there's a lot more to light as far as the technology that I mean ain't being touched on. A buddy of mine, I actually tried it for a month, and I would say it really, really helped me with sleep and brain fog. Like it took away my brain fog. They were like stem cell patches. It's like X39 life wave, and it kind of activates your internal, you know, infrared lights that generate your to produce that copper that produces stem cells.
Mhm.
So it's basically like a stem cell kind of activator type deal. And I did it for a month. It recommends to try it for 3, but I did it for a month. That was like like $100. So, but the sleep was amazing. I was getting dreams and all that. So, and the brain fog went away. But yeah, I didn't do it long enough. But there's a lot of crazy technology that deals with light and so much healing
Yeah.
can be used. I actually had a sit down with the Whole Foods CFO, and I mentioned why aren't we like doing more on a like organically or holistically with medicine and all that, introducing that more into the culture. And he said he would like to see that happen a lot too, especially medicinally. Like you could cure diabetes and all the stuff they say. You just gotta follow, and that's the thing is following what's supposed to be done, you know? Like a 30-day
Right.
watermelon only fast, like that's got to be tough, but it's doable. And if it could bypass your pancreas, which that's what diabetes is, you can heal your diabetes. Gotta do stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm actually a homeopathic
Okay.
practitioner,
Yeah.
and I make a lot of my own natural medicines, salves, tinctures, all kinds of things here at home,
Yeah.
wildcraft stuff, and there's a
I bet
lot
people
of
come to you.
things, huh?
I bet a lot of people come to you like, hey, like, and
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Like pretty much my whole family, especially. I mean, it started
uh,
within the family, right? But yeah, I'm kind of like the go-to person for a lot of people. But so there's definitely a lot of things that can help um, remedy or lessen or even make them go away, right?
mhm.
Without saying
It's
that
cured. Yeah.
guaranteed, yeah, that guaranteed cure word.
Yeah.
Um, but back
FDA.
to yeah, but back to the you were talking about light and how our body is electricity,
Yeah.
and you did the little stem cell patches and stuff. The great thing about technology, well, let me back this up. The great thing about this great awakening that we're all in, where we're learning new things, is
Mhm.
that all of these technologies are actually patterned after what the human body can already do.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
Which is a very
amplifying it.
cool thing. Yeah. And also for all of the viewers out there that can't afford those patches, get yourself a red light bulb
Red light therapy.
and do your own red light therapy and take your little tiny supplement, low dose supplement of some copper once in a while, right?
Yep.
And start clicking things on within you. And no, I'm not a doctor, blah blah, all those things.
Yeah, exactly. And
but
that's one
but
thing too.
red
You
light
can't
therapy is amazing. And one more thing I wanted to say is that light is a vibration.
oh yeah.
Okay, it's a
Oh,
frequency.
yeah.
So when God said, "Let there be light," he was bursting out of vibration into creation, right?
Mhm.
Because to vibrate is to create. So, I mean, the whole thing
I
really
love
does tie
that.
together.
Yeah, I love that. I haven't heard that before. And I was gonna say too, like one thing you gotta preach for people is like, can expect instant gratification, especially like when you're doing something, you gotta stick to it. You really gotta stick
Yeah,
through
yeah.
with it. And you do once you like kind of stop what you're doing, you're like, oh man, why do I feel so tired? Or even at that, like just small things about your body, like you getting a little crisp on your corner, okay, you're vitamin C deficient. Like you're
Yeah.
waking up with cramps every day. A lot of people don't know is just take magnesium. I take a magnesium pill, it
Mhm.
goes away and almost instantaneously. Like it's
Yeah, or
helps
or
things
just drink
work.
or just drink more water because sometimes it's just you're not
Yeah,
drinking enough water. Yeah,
right.
that can cause muscle cramps and headaches. But yes, the magnesium, that's like a daily for me. I take magnesium daily. Yeah,
Yeah, it's insufficient. We're not getting it in our food.
right.
And that's
Because
why
we don't,
I'm,
because they're not growing our food the way they that we used to,
yeah.
right? Like this, we're not getting all them nutrients in the soil that used to be there.
Yeah, especially like nowadays, like, back in the days, they would take the wood ash from the furnace because they didn't
Yes,
have electric
yes.
furnace, so they would use it to grow their food with. And there's so much in the ashes that, just like the
Yes.
magma, what it does. Um, yeah, there's just so much there to harvest. Like you said, the body, the energy, the light. there's just amplifying what God already created, and that's the whole thing with
Yep.
science is understanding a world that was created opposed to understanding a world that's random. 'Cause
Right.
how can you wake up to, you're relying on gravity pretty much to wake up and you can stand up, So it's like, granted, now there's theories about gravity, but the whole principle of gravity pull or whatever. But yeah, like
Yeah.
it's really a beautiful thing. And the Bible talks about God is your joy. That this is where like I find a lot of joy is talking about it and like learning all this stuff because it's a beautiful thing. And next thing you know, if you look at it as on a creation sense, you can become this inventor if you really wanted. And there's people doing it. Like I said, the light patches. I don't know if you ever heard of them, the X-79, but I'm sure there's plenty more good technology out there, especially like I was going to mention like parasites and stuff. If you look at cancer, in a sense, cancer is a kind of a beautiful thing that God implemented with the human body. It's just that it comes to a point that you're taking in so much that it can't flush it all out through your lymphatic system. And so, like parasites or cancer, it comes up and it's eating the bad stuff, but it's too much that it's getting lodged in your body, and that's what it's becoming. And a lot of doctors they don't look at stuff as parasites, especially like with cancer. Granted, oh, technically is, but they won't treat it like a parasite. That's why ivermectin, HCQ, all these
Yes.
like different, very cheap FDA approved killers, supposedly by the media, like they were curing cancer, is because it's all parasitic. You have to treat it like it's parasite. And it is technically is, but it goes deeper. The same thing with that one Montel Williams had it. It's can't think-
Ah, that's a blast from the past.
yeah, he is. It starts with an M. Anyways, but yeah, they said like growing up with dog. If you grew up with dogs, a lot of people have this because it's
Are you
like
talking about MS?
MS. Yeah, I
Yeah,
knew it.
yeah.
I'm like I can't think of the
Yeah, yeah.
multi-sclerosis or whatever. I can't.
Yeah. Multiple sclerosis.
Sclerosis,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes. And there's tons of people getting that these days. Like tons of people.
Yeah. And is it ever looked at as it like a parasite thing? I don't think no doctor has. I've heard about this. I haven't done tests. I'm not a PhD or anything like that. Like, but this is what I've heard. Like, it's growing up. If you had pets in your house growing up as a kid, it's usually like a parasite that kind of lodges in and it activates ever because that's what a virus does. It activate lies dormant.
That's
Um,
interesting.
yeah, so they found like certain anomalies along the spine with some people, some patients, and so yeah, like that's something to look into. I mean, no, I wouldn't take it as truth. I wouldn't take it as false, but it's something to look into. I think it should be studied.
Definitely. I think so too. That's very interesting to me because I
Sure.
remember several years, excuse me, 7 years ago, several years ago, there was a study that linked cat feces
Hmm.
to schizophrenia.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's interesting, right? Because there's
Same thing
like
with the urine.
something, it's something in, yeah, in the litter, it's something about the litter box, right? If you have an indoor cat, right, that uses a litter box, and then I guess they get it on their feet and then they walk all over your furniture and whatever, and you can actually like end up with it inside of you. And in
Yeah.
humans, it causes something like schizophrenia. And I'm just like, oh, damn, is that a
Yeah.
real thing? That's very interesting because
And
I
it's
can
very
see where that would, I can see where that would be real, you know?
yeah. And that's the thing. You could actually still have a cat in the house. You just gotta treat it as a parasite and get rid of it. And
Right.
there's anti-parasitic drugs that I mean, doctors don't want to prescribe. I tried getting like HCQ prescribed when I had COVID. Like, hey, give me no, no, no. I'm like, no, give me no. I'm like,
But
oh,
there's also all naturals that you can take that do
yeah,
the same
alternative.
thing.
Yeah. Whatever.
And you can just buy them right off the shelf at the store.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? Yeah.
Vitamin C, D, zinc, and
Mm,
quercetin. You get those four together, that's a killer combo. Like, I
yeah.
talked the whole time during COVID, never got sick, and then when I kind of like fell off, then I got sick, but. I
Yeah.
tested positive but wasn't sick, and then a few years later I got really, 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 really sick. It was rare for me. Like COVID was weird for me.
Uh,
And that was like the first day of the lockdowns. I'm on Facebook laughing like, oh, all this over for the common cold, and granted it is the common cold militarized, but yeah.
right. Um, for me and my kids, we just took a dose of elderberry with our vitamin C every day, because elderberry is very good in just like helping you get over the regular common flu.
Hmm.
And so I'm like, well, if we take that, that should help. And it did, you know. There are very simple things. I mean, God really did give us this whole wonderful planet full of amazing remedies.
Yeah.
We just have to be smart enough to use our brain and figure out which one is for which.
Yeah.
And there's even some that are specific for parasitical type things.
Oh yeah, like warm wood and all that good stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Papaya seeds.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, there's so many herbs, and the Bible talks about it. He uses it to service man. Like you got these miracle herbs, like cayenne pepper. That's in almost everybody's kitchen.
I
You
know,
could prevent
right?
a heart attack. You could clean out arteries with cayenne pepper. Like there's a million things that
Amazing.
amplifies other herbs if you mix it with. But yeah,
Yeah.
cayenne pepper is like a major one. And then there's one thing. Have you heard the cholesterol myth or whatever? It's like certain doctors are arguing against like heart problems and cholesterol being related. So you've heard about that then?
Yeah.
Yeah, like how because your body already produces cholesterol.
Yeah.
And
And we need
your
some.
brain, yeah, your brain needs it.
Mhm.
And so these people who are getting on and to lower your cholesterol,
Statins.
statins and all
Statins.
this, and they're getting brain problems because they're not getting the cholesterol that they need. And there's a reason why your body is high on cholesterol. It's probably not because of like your brain or your heart. There's other reasons that I don't think science has gotten into that they could and it's like kind of a whole sham. Like if you look at like that ain't working and move forward, you could fix it. And that's a problem with most cases. Like they're not realizing they're wrong. They just want to like, oh, okay, we just got to keep giving me big money, big money, big money.
Yeah.
We're looking. It's like evolution. Like researching you're never gonna find the answer to it. So we're having these money pits. We need to and that's what like I'm so optimistic about the future because you got JFK Jr. talking about the FDA and the agriculture taking all this on. Like this is this is 50 years overdue. This should have never got this way. The gold, the money, um, our
Yeah.
lives are purposely manipulated to be a little on the hellish, and it shouldn't. We like, granted, it's you do have a psychology if you want to be happy or not in this current state, but just think of a world where like the food isn't poison, our politicians are a little more controlled by the people. We have like things running efficient, and we have better health options and just better options in general. Like how happy the world can be. And granted, I think we're moving in that direction slowly. But there's a lot of obstacles in the way, especially with the whole AI. Because that's a double-edged sword for me. It's like the nuclear bomb. Once someone had a nuclear bomb, that thank God the good guys got it. That's the same thing with AI. I think the US needs to implement AI before China, because that could be
Hmm.
detrimental to us in a major, major way. But at the same time, it is controversial because there's a lot of demonic stuff behind it. It's like, man, well, we got to beat China because who's more demonic than China right now? So,
Right. I ain't gonna argue with you there. Um, I don't even think Russia's bad, bad compared to them. I mean, honestly, and
he's right.
I think that the Russians get bad rap sometimes too. I think they
Granted,
get thrown under the bus for some shit that ain't even their doing.
yeah, exactly. It's people using servers that's based out of or Ukraine computing
Right.
Russia, which Ukraine is a major
Right.
keystone to this whole element of the political world right now. Like
It
all
is.
the
It
green
is.
companies, all the sex trafficking, all of the
Yeah. There's
it's
so much that people don't realize about
yeah.
them.
and it
Yeah.
goes between, you got China right there, Russia right there. Everything's just kind of like right there, and it's just, yeah, like once that thing blows open, that's when we're gonna start, you know, world's gonna see what was going on. And granted, most of it
Yeah.
ain't gonna become public. That's the sad part because it needs to, but it's so much stuff that people just can't
I
fact.
know. And it really is. Yeah, it's so much that I think it would be like information overload for most people, for the average
Society will
person.
collapse.
And I'm okay with it not being made public, quote unquote public, as far as like playing it out or having to rehash it or whatever that looks like.
I would like a
But
public
I do,
access.
yeah, yes, I want some type of public access to know that it happened, and I truly hope that international tribunals are happening. Like,
I believe they're not happening yet, but they're going to happen.
I don't know. I
Yeah,
think,
no, it's hard to say because, well, granted, let's say John McCain, they got John McCain.
oh yeah,
That was kind of confirmed in many different ways.
no name,
His
no
daughter was
name.
like all mad about it. Like, I forgot what she said, but she kind of admits it. Yeah, they put him down. And granted, he needed to be. He was
Mhm.
the most treasonous guy ever. Like, his whole
Oh
story
yeah,
when he was in war, sick. This guy's a sick guy.
yeah,
And all
and
the foundation, sorry.
go ahead, go
But
ahead.
yeah, when they shut the Clinton Foundation, all the money, or no, actually, when Trump got elected, everybody was like, "Oh shit," they don't want to go that way, or so they started going to the McCain Institute, and that's where all the Clinton Foundation, like, he's one of the sick guys up
Yep,
there, really sick guy.
yeah, and one of those rabbit holes that I ended up going down actually explored the topic of him being the ringleader of creating this whole ISIS thing,
Oh,
you know, or
he,
like whatever, Al Qaeda, one of those kind of
he
groups,
had,
you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
he had pictures, he had his hands in it for sure.
yeah, like
But
he was very involved.
yeah, I mean, granted, I think Hussein probably was probably the ringleader. He was probably up there with them because of the military.
Ah, well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, either way, they're working for the same person. George Soros,
right.
who's been
Yeah.
had
Yeah,
his
they're
hands on
all
the Middle East.
they're all for the same goal for sure. Um and it's not just our politicians and public officials. I mean, this is international. But
Mm. Iran
there was
is
actually something else.
what's
Go
going
ahead.
on. Right, Iran is very major for what's going on right now. This whole war thing and what's expected of them coming
Yeah.
soon. Like they're gonna be ratting people out. They're gonna. I don't know exactly what's gonna happen, how it's gonna happen, but I know the ending. But like, um, they're supposed to rat out Hussein. I guess they got some logs because you look at the whole Snowden thing. He wasn't like Hollywood made him out to be someone, and that's because he was their guy. Like he did a good thing. What he did was give Obama like this curtain to basically send over trillions of actual currency dollars to Iran and like nuclear weapons. That's pretty much arming them, and they also did the uranium one with Russia, where they send 50% of our nuclear stockpile there. And now they want to go to war with these guys. So like how obvious it like they want to start World War III. They're
Right.
they're egging Ukraine on to keep moving NATO and these nuclear forces closer and closer. And now um Putin, like he had to make his move. He's talking about like the Nazis. Ukraine was taken over by the Nazis. It's always been like really um, racist civilization. Like it was voted one of the most racist places. Now, granted, it's probably beautiful, a lot of beautiful people too, but Nazis do exist prominently in, and that's where that one assassination attempt guy, he was all about Ukraine and all that. And he was talking about how he's moving Arabs or Afghans
Oh
or
yeah.
like,
The guy
yeah,
on the golf course. Yeah.
yeah, and you would need like, Homeland Security to do stuff like that to move Afghans, Ukraine to fight the war. Like,
Mhm.
so yeah, this whole government, what people call it like the shadow government, COG, Black Ops, all the stuff that goes on up top. It's obviously them. They had their hands in JFK. They had their hands in that. They had their hands a lot with Iran. With Obama, and the
Yeah.
backstory with Obama is a whole rabbit hole in itself. And
Oh,
I've come to
yeah.
my conclusions, but
Yeah. But I mean, this goes all the way back to like the 80s with the Iran Contra
yeah,
affair. You know, I mean, we had bad guys here in bed with them then, you know,
yeah,
smuggling weapons and different things. So, I mean, and
yeah.
drugs
And
and
as we
weapons.
mentioned, yeah, oh, for sure. And yeah,
Yeah.
speaking of drugs too, I want to add on to this. Like, in the Muslim Brotherhood, which would pretty much be based out of Iran, like they held um peace treaties with Hitler. Like they were the axis of evil, right? The Muslim Brotherhood was part of that. And so, like, you still seeing this combo today where you have the Muslim Brotherhood and you got no Nazis. And then when you look at what the brown coats and everything in Nazism did is the same exact kind of playbook they're playing. And then Nazis were big into drugs. And this is where like we was talking about demonic possession earlier with drugs, that like these people were loaded on meth and all types of like crack, all all types of stuff. And Alex Jones talked about it once, like these trolls, like if you're tripping, talk to these trolls or whatever, and they're getting like this off-world information basically from demons. To me, that's the way I look at it. They're getting this off-world info, and that's where they're making these complete evil with 23andMe, the DNA, AI, all these different technologies, like there's a very evil purpose behind it, especially with your DNA. Like, why do these people want your DNA?
Mhm.
Why was Jeff
Right.
Epstein grabbing all these doing stuff with DNA? Um,
Right.
it's mind-boggling what actually they were doing. Like, that hasn't even been cracked open yet. Like, what are these people
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah, that's gonna be a whole big bomb on its own.
Yeah,
When
yeah, I
when
forget
that
about
layer
that,
of the
but like
onion
now I
gets peeled
remember it.
back, that's gonna be a pretty big deal. Yeah, we'll leave that one for another show because that could literally be a whole show.
Oh yeah, the whole Epstein shebang, man.
The DNA thing, the DNA
Oh, the
grab,
DNA. Oh
man,
yeah.
that's a big deal. That's
We
a
might
big
have
deal.
to because like you might know more on this than I do actually, just because like it's never been my topic of expertise type deal. Like I touch on it, but I mean
Mm.
I know like the 23andMe owner, founder was married to the Google. Like they're all like family. It's weird. They're all married to each other.
Yeah, and somehow Elizabeth Warren's husband has something to do with it too.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
it's crazy like how the and it's the same thing with Jeff Bezos. They think his dad was a CIA agent.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Well, okay, but you can't necessarily throw the baby out with the bathwater there with that comment because you've quoted Alex Jones several times, and his parents were CIA.
yeah, he openly admits that. Especially when he talks about his dad, he's like, "Oh, my dad's a dentist." And but one thing though, like I know Alex Jones is one of them. Now, granted, he says a lot of truth. You got to know how to eat the meat and spit out the bone with everything. Because
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
because there's a lot of bad
Discernment.
people who will say good things. There's good people who do bad things. And Alex Jones, like I
Yep.
loved him so far up until he lost his mind with Q and all that. And I was like, man,
Yep.
that's a shame. I really like admired him, but at the end of the day, like he's just another person. But um, yeah, that last since that whole the Q clearance thing began, that's just blowing. Like that, it was such a blast following with, and it's not even finished yet. Like I'm wondering when he's coming back and doing more drops, but I'm hungry for some
Oh, so
more.
so you are an anon.
I would say so, but like I wouldn't say myself anonymous. You know what I mean? Like I'm kind of open about it, but
Right, okay, but you followed all of it.
yeah, I know
And
what you mean. Yeah, there's Q and then
yeah, I
there's
mean like the second you said rabbit hole at the beginning, I was already wondering.
oh yeah.
You know?
And I
Cuz
was so skeptical against that. Like they were doing their job.
oh, I was too, dude. Like
Yeah.
immediately as soon as it came out, I'm like in it
4chan.
to debunk it, right? I'm like, this is
Yeah.
some kind of massive psyop. This is some kind of Nazi propaganda bullshit. Like I was ready to fucking prove that it's a
Yeah.
fake.
Well, you knew like
And
4chan
it's
and
not.
the Anonymous,
Like it's
right?
not. Yeah, because I
Guy
was there.
Fawkes. They're a
I
bunch
was
of
there.
communists. Yeah, they're a bunch of communists, and they're there. That's why I'm like, okay, this guy is another anonymous Guy Fawkes cook.
Right.
And it's like, no, yeah, like,
Right.
yeah, I was out to disprove it myself, but
Yep. And
oh,
the more I dug, the more I was like,
you can't explain
holy.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
especially if you're up at the
Yeah.
top, you can't explain that.
Yeah.
Just like the because what got me was when he dropped the whole Jeff Sessions thing, and I'm like, okay, where is this? And like a month later, it
I
came,
know, right?
and it was like, oh, okay, this is somebody. There's nowhere, around
Yeah.
it, and it kept happening. And there's other pictures, all types of stuff. When he called out Alex Jones, the way he acted, I was so, I was so disappointed with that. Like,
And but what I really love about the whole movement there was that it's not like Q was out there queuing you for your next scene kind of a thing, right? It
yeah,
was it was give you a clue and have you go research it for yourself and figure out what the clue means. And I love that about the way they went about it because the more they did that, the more people really woke up and learned. And then
yeah,
I'm like, okay, they are on my side here. Because
yeah,
like I don't know if you know, but my whole life I have told my mom and dad, I came here for the great awakening and it'll start happening in my late 40s and everybody's going to realize all the truths,
yeah.
right? Like they're going to realize all the truths.
That
And my
vibration
mom and
is
dad was
there. It's
just like,
gonna happen.
"What?"
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
Yeah, and I mean, it is happening, and it's been happening kind of since 2012. But then when the whole Corona thing happened, a lot of people woke up then.
Oh yeah,
2019, 2020, which is kind of beautiful in a way
yeah.
because
It's like how stupid are these people?
number one, Corona is a Spanish word for crown, which I love, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And this was a drop you to your knees, bring you back to Jesus kind of moment, right?
Mhm.
First of all. And second of all, um, 2020, hindsight's 2020, right? And
Yeah,
then like my whole life, I'm like, okay, God, I know this is like the divine plan and all, but how in the world are we ever going to get everybody to just stop and wake up? Everybody's so busy, the hustle, the bustle, the da 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 da. And boom, on cue, God said, let's make this that moment. And so it was, right? Like,
right. Yeah,
because so many people started being like, huh, this doesn't add up. And whoa, that sure looks weird. And man, that person sure looks like they're wearing a mask.
yeah. They're telling you common sense, or they're telling you to go against common sense. And now, granted, some people fell for it. I'm sorry for my liberal friends out there, but like,
I know, God love them.
yeah, but I hate when they get so angry with you. It's like, dude, like,
Yeah.
why are you that? I hate to say dumb, but even with the
And listen, in all due respect for all of them, though, really, between the media and these doctors that were coming out and talking about it in such a scary way, I mean, you can't and all these people trust their government, they trust the doctors, they trust all these different, people that are
doctors,
supposed to be more intelligent than we are. They're supposed to be who we can look to for direction and for truth. So, with that, I feel bad for them, right?
yeah,
Because we just happen to be a little more ahead of the game than them in the sense that we know the lies that they've been telling us, whether it's doctors or whoever, right? We know.
discernment.
So, I mean, like we've got a better whiff of it. And so I don't want to disrespect anybody by saying that they're dumb. I don't.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
either.
but at the same
But,
time, you really saw people's true colors when
yeah,
this happened because I had friends that I witnessed personally throw their neighbors under the bus for thinking that they had it,
yeah,
right? Like would bleach their walls every day, just ridiculous things, you
yeah.
know? They just really, really jumped on the fear train.
They were
and
doing
became really ugly human beings, you
destructive.
know? Yeah, I mean, like, one person, she's an individual, no children, nobody lives with her, just it's just her. And she went to the store, she was one of those people that went and bought all the toilet paper and all the baby wipes and all the napkins and
Oh man.
everything she could get into cram into her car, she bought,
Yeah.
right? And she's like, "Ha ha ha, I'm gonna have all this stuff, blah blah blah."
And
And
that
I'm like,
forced
"But
me to
what about?"
panic.
I'm like, "But what about all those mothers with children, with
Yeah.
babies that need those wipes and these other people that need toilet paper?" And I don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, it really showed me a side of her I'd never seen before, you know?
Well, greed kicks in, and that's the whole thing with like
Wow, man.
that's why we need disaster. I hate to say it, but like disaster is a really humbling thing. It really shows you the true nature of each person. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
and that's why I always say like, what's going to jolt the world back into place where men start act, well, men stop acting like women and women stop acting like men. You know, it gets
Yeah.
realigned. That's going to be real life. You
Yeah.
know, like a disaster. It's got to retune everybody back into their natural organic state of what we're supposed to be. It needs to. It's going to be wild, but it needs to be done.
Yeah. I know, and I get what you're saying there, and, like, to a lot of people, that sounds terrible, you
Yeah,
know? But to some level or another, we need a cleansing upon this earth, you know? We need a deep cleaning
well, it's not just like
to a lot of things. We
yeah,
need we gotta get rid of all this bad because this really is a spiritual war
it is.
between good and evil.
And there's going to be casualties of war, and that's one sad part about it. Um,
Very, very
I
sad.
believe war to be a necessary evil. Um, yeah, and especially when it comes to spirituality, like and people, you have to fight for your beliefs, and that,
Yeah.
I'm living in the real world, so where like when I say certain things, like I don't okay, like I don't mean like death, like certain. I think just certain occurrences to people have to realize, okay, now I have to play my net. You're forced back to your
Yeah,
natural.
no.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
like men are
No,
gonna
I
be forced
I
to act like men, or they're gonna realize they have to start acting like a man now. Or women, they're gonna have to start
right.
realizing you have to like a woman now. Like
Right.
everybody has their part and role in life, and some people don't know it, they get lost. And that's where a lot of people live lost because they just don't know their role in life. And once you understand your role, like it's a beautiful thing and you roll with it, you grow. It's
Yes.
what is your role in life?
Yes. And I wanted to ask you too, what do you think about all of the people talking now about we're living in the end times? Do you feel like that's you feel like that's true?
I was actually going to share this other day. It was a prophecy of Daniel where he talks about towards the end of days, like um, these certain alliances that happen. Like the lion has eagles like a wing, but it gets it clipped, suggesting that like okay, the America would be lion, or wait, no, the eagle would be America, and the lion is Great Britain, but the eagle getting its wings clipped, so that's America, getting its wings clipped, it can't fly. Then it goes into um, the cougar or a panther or whatever. You start talking about a panther, and they're suggesting that's like a North Korea, an Asian alliance, probably with North Korea, China, God knows who else, Cambodia maybe. So you have that faction, and then the next faction would be it's not an animal, but it's like an iron giant that stops its foot in rage or whatever. And this was before Islam, so and people were thinking, okay, this is probably the Ottoman Empire, the which is the Islamic Empire, basically. Which that's kind of who we're seeing now. So we have this faction and the Asian America, and then the Muslim Brotherhood. So yeah, to the answer to that, I think it's a challenge. I don't know. Like I wish God would send me a signal to like, okay, is this set in stone? Does this have to happen? or are you telling us this is going to happen in order for us to overcome it? Because that's why I believe there's stars in the universe, so we could, travel to the distances. So can we overcome the end of times? That I have to ask
Yeah.
the question back, because it seems like we are fulfilling these prophecies, but at the same time, like it doesn't seem like it has to be. But at the same time, the sun is going to end and it's going to burn out, and the earth is going to end. So like, can we travel? It does it have to be the end? And
Yeah. I like your answer a lot.
yeah, and it's yeah,
And I guarantee you
the
don't know
nine
my answer.
sense. Yeah.
So I was actually shown from a very young age visions of what this in quote unquote end time scenario looks like. And it's much like what the Hopi prophecy and the Mayans talk of, how there's two roads, two choices, right?
Mhm.
It's not one or the other. It's not ultimate destruction. And it has happened repeatedly on a cyclical basis
Yeah.
when things get to a tipping point. And typically, that tipping point happens with other movement in the sky, celestial bodies and whatnot. And it even speaks in the Bible about, God put the sun and the moon and the celestial bodies up there as markers for us to know when these times were coming,
Yes.
right? And all of those signs are definitely showing up and being in alignment with each other. And we've got all of these different earth changes happening, right?
Yeah.
And there's plenty of things going on that are those bring you back to Jesus kind of moments, you
Mhm.
know, and it's a choice. Do we come back home to God, or do we cling to what we already know and just keep going with that? And the Hopi prophecy says that as well. You can choose that same road everybody's always traveled, or you can choose that higher road and go with the flow of the current, right? Go with that change, roll with it. Don't try to cling to the bank and cling to what you already know. Try to grow and expand and become something more, right?
Mhm.
And even Jesus himself said to the 12 disciples when he told them to go out in 12 directions. And they're like, "But Lord, if you're not with us, how do we do these wonderful things that you do?" You're right.
Yeah.
And Jesus was like, um, "You too can go forth and do the same great works as me and more." Right. And I've tested that, scientifically tested that, to make sure that those things thought I was being told were all real. And all the way to this point that we're at now, where things are drastically changing. Everything that I've been able to test scientifically has shown me that this is our end times. But it's
Mhm.
it's an end. For every end is a new beginning, right? I do tarot. And in the tarot, that's exactly what the death card means. The death card is a death and a rebirth of
Yeah.
something new, right? Like winter going into spring. It's the opportunity to change and blossom and grow. And
Yeah.
I feel like with us being in this time now where everyone is awakening, I think that if enough of us choose the awakening and choose God rather than choosing fear and choosing the normal, we can change what's happening.
The outcome. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that you said that. I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah, like I said, it was kind of a non-answer in a sense, because I mean it's truthful, and that goes with the symbiotic of things. Like when God made
Yes,
everything, it was good. So when you create good, you instantly create
that's
evil.
right.
And so, like you said, when there's death, there's kind of a rebirth.
Right. And actually, I just real quick want to slide this in because I know that you're a Christian scholar, um, and I've studied all religions across the world. And I personally have come to this conclusion that God created good and bad
Yeah,
because God gave us free will,
yeah,
right?
exactly,
And the bad is there to teach us or tempt us. It's up to us which way we go with that,
exactly.
right? So that means he even created the devil,
And
honestly.
yeah,
I mean, he created all the demons, right? They're God's creation. It's what we do with them that determines how much power they have and how much harm they can bring. Because inevitably, it's that symbiotic relationship. If we're giving them power and we're allowing them in us and to influence us, our free will just made that shit happen.
Yeah, 100% right on that. Yeah.
Yeah. So if we can figure that out, I mean, we can literally go poof, kind of magically almost, and make it go away because we choose it.
Yeah, because well, when do we have the science? Like, we're on this like this realm or plane with science that it can become. I hate to call it metaphysical science, but an actual
Well, it
science.
is.
Where yeah, you know what I mean. Like, but it could
Yeah.
be more real and institutionalized and actually taught. You know, you could actually go to school and like, I want to do this, and
Yes.
you know what I mean. Like, what? Like, can it be possible? It can be. I'm
Yeah.
sure God would want it to be, or to our understanding. Now, granted, there's some things that on a wisdom and logical sense that we ain't gonna understand until like we go to heaven. Like the Trinity. Like I got concepts of it. You know, it's like your brain. You could think, you could think about what you're thinking, and then the brain reacts like it's controlling your body without you thinking about it, right? And that's kind of like how the Holy Trinity is, like the God, Father, Holy Spirit. It works in that same concept that it's one, but even though Jesus is the Son, and you had the whole,
Agree.
you know, and it's something like I
Hmm.
can't grasp 100% and understand the logic of why, but in the and when I talk to God, He's going to show me exactly why some things I just don't understand. But granted, like there are things you really can't understand if you try to. But and that's one thing that differs from knowledge. From everybody wants knowledge, you got to have wisdom because you want to be wise with what you know. You know what good is knowing how to use a sword if you ain't gonna be wise to use a sword. You know you're gonna end up cutting your own.
Hmm. Right. That's kind of the same concept when they teach karate and stuff, right? The martial arts. They teach you the respect and the honor of life
Yeah,
because your hands are literally becoming a deadly weapon or whatever. And so it's that same concept. Now, you and I differ a little bit on your opinion of what you just said there about how you're not going to understand everything necessarily until you get to heaven.
yeah,
Um, because in my opinion, the whole Trinity lives within us, just like it is within God. God is within us, the Holy Spirit is within us, and Jesus' knowledge and wisdom is within us.
mhm,
And it works just like our brain, our consciousness, and then the body all
yeah.
work together symbiotically. And
Okay.
because we all are like this, then we all are a part of the one, right?
Hmm.
I don't think anybody disagrees really that we're all God's children. So that means that the spark of God is within us. And so we can connect to God and we can tap into that universal wisdom. We can connect with each other telepathically or otherwise, energetically, and tap into each other's wisdom and be on the same vibration or wavelength with each other so that we can work together symbiotically.
Yeah,
Like it's a really beautiful, beautiful thing. And that's actually what the lotus in the crown chakra represents. It's 144,000 petals that all come together and culminate because of all the petals in the other six chakras.
yeah,
Now, God created the earth and the sun and the moon in 6 days, and on the seventh day, he rests
yeah,
when he's in his crown chakra.
yeah.
I mean, it's all connected. The Buddhist teachings, Christian teachings, they all are symbiotic of each other.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah, there's always something you can learn in each one that they really do kind of turn into one. Because
they're telling the same story, they just use different language.
yeah, exactly.
You
Between
know,
that, or there might be small similar, like with the Native Americans, there was a book wrote called the Child. I forgot the name of that book. It's something like the Savior Child or something like that. Or this guy he goes into an Indian Native American culture, and they're teaching the
you
Peace
talking
Child.
about the
That's what
white brother?
the Peace Child. That's what it's called. What happened?
Are you talking about the white brother that comes?
Yeah,
The
white man,
rainbow child?
and he's living with the natives and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they're going into war. He's trying to teach them Christianity, and they couldn't figure it out. And so then they talk about, okay, we're about to go to war, so okay, we got to surrender one of our babies in order for peace because they didn't want to go to war. And so that clicked. Like, okay, well, here's Jesus. He's the the sacrificial, and that's how he was able to kind of bring them into Christianity. But yeah, that's kind of the same thing with like Buddhism. There are these universal concepts that are like entrenched in them. And we all, and like you said, speaking about the Trinity with, and you're kind of right with that because everything does have, threes. Three is heavily repeated number in the universe.
Yeah. Yeah. 3 and 7 and what else?
You know,
72. Yeah.
yeah. So, like with that, when God created time, minutes, seconds, hours, space, uh, height, width, dimension and all that. You have the Trinity of Trinities when he created space, time, and matter. Um, yeah, and so everything, yeah, every part has the three. So there are times like I can't understand it, but like in the bigger picture, yeah, there's just some things I won't be able to fathom until I get to heaven. But yeah, like I have a cusp on the Trinity, but I totally get where you're going at, and I
Yeah.
definitely agree with that on that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you're free to believe your way and I'll believe mine and,
Yeah, no, yeah, I just want to definitely clarify stuff like, and it gives people the option, take in
Absolutely.
information, eat the meat, chew out the bone.
Right. That's right. That's right. I personally feel like we're only as limited as we tell ourselves that we are, you
Yeah,
know? So, and that I feel like that's really been truthful in my own life because anytime that I said I can't, I didn't. you know? And every time I said I can, by golly, where there's a will, there is a way, you
yeah,
know? So, willpower is a huge, huge real thing.
it is.
And people that don't have a lot of willpower will definitely limit themselves, right? That's the main reason actually that I teach self-love
Yeah,
as like the foundation of all of this because so many, I mean, no, like nobody's taught to love themselves, right? We're all taught to
yeah.
love everybody else.
A lot of us
We're
hate
taught
it.
how that looks. Yeah, but we're not taught what it looks like to love yourself, right? If you love yourself, it's just selfishness, it's ego, it's this, it's that. There's always some negative thing put on it, right?
Oh yeah,
And if you don't love yourself, then you don't have self-confidence, right? You
right.
don't you don't have a good image of yourself. You don't feel good about yourself. When people put you down, you're going to allow that to some extent, right? And so you limit yourself. And I like that army thing, be all you can be.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, you do.
So,
Like,
and I'm like in God's army being like, don't limit the maker, you
yeah,
know?
exactly. Yeah,
Be all you can be.
and that's how I try to go about life too. Grab the bull by the horns. Like,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
I try not to let anything stop me. Really, I'm a very confident person, and I
Oh, yeah,
people
it
tell, "Oh, you
shows.
can't do that." I'm like, "No, felons and stuff like that can do it. I'm gonna do it too. No, I'm doing it." So like,
Yeah.
yeah, you'd be surprised some of the things if you put your mind to and do it. You can't. You have to go.
Uh-huh.
It's the Rookie of the Year, that movie with the Cubs pitcher. I don't know if you've ever seen that. He's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you have to, you have to, and you have don't. He didn't. He's like, what was I talking? No, it made sense to me. He's like, you gotta go to. You have to. You have to do it. No other
Yeah.
exception. You have to do it.
Yeah. Because can't never could,
Yeah,
right? I
exactly.
mean, like you working on your house right now. Perfect example, right? Because
Yeah.
you've had people ask you, how do you know how to do all this different stuff, right?
I don't know. But
And you're just like, I'm gonna figure it out because I can't afford to pay somebody else to do it. And if I'm gonna pay somebody else to do it, I might as well save myself some money and do it myself, right?
exactly, you're 100% right on that. And
Yeah.
I think that everybody needs to, even with yourself, like anybody who's watching this with yourself, take that in. Like, never let someone stop you from being who you want to be or what you want to do. Like, follow your heart and do it. There's, if money is an issue, you just got to figure things out and you have to do it.
Yeah.
You just have to.
Definitely. Yeah. And I really love that. I like reading your Facebook posts when you're commenting on stuff like that because I'm like, that's too cool. He's doing all this different crazy shit himself.
Yeah, I'm doing a million things at once. Like my plate is so full. Like how is he so skinny, but my plate is so full?
You're right. And you're living on caffeine drinks. Me
Like
too. I listen, I got
well,
my
I'm
coffee.
drinking a Monster.
You got your monster, I got my coffee.
Well, you know about Monster, right? The 666.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
it gives me a picker up.
Something happened to your audio. Did you turn off your thing?
Let me say, does my regular voice
Oh,
work? Okay, my mic died. That's the first time
yep.
it died on me.
Yep. I was like, something just happened. We lost you.
Okay. Well, I'm glad I switched over quickly. Like I didn't have to go on.
Yeah. You did that pretty smooth. You're a smooth operator.
Yeah, I got these on eBay for like $10.
Right
Uh,
on.
there's two of
I
them.
love eBay.
There's two of them. You put them in, charge them. So if you're ever like, I can send you the link if you want when you do your podcast. Like, I love them.
Yeah, man. That's way better than having this thing in my head. I don't like this Bluetooth in my ear all the time.
Well, at least you get the. Well, granted, I'm listening through what's my phone. Like I said, I almost had to do that. Like I couldn't hear you at first. I'm like, oh, what's going on?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I don't dig this thing in my ear all the time. It kind of freaks me out because, like, I don't like to put my cell phone up to my ear, you know?
Take it out. Still feels like it's in there, and it's.
Yeah, yeah. It's like it's buzzing in there and feels like I got a little bug in my ear or something for a while. It's just weird.
I don't ever want to lose the ability to listen to music. Don't take that.
Right? Me neither. Me neither. So yeah, definitely send me that link. I love eBay, dude. I bought a freaking minivan off of eBay and drove all the way to North Carolina to get it one time.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Oh
That's
yeah.
back when eBay was eBay. Like now
Oh
it's
yeah.
leftist nonsense. But like, yeah, I mean, granted,
Yeah.
it's still good in its ways, but yeah, back in those days, you could get anything, and
Yeah.
it was the car place to go to. It really was.
Yeah. Oh, I had it was a great minivan. I had it for like 16 years.
Oh,
It was great.
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. And when I sold it, I still got like $8,000 out of it because it was a hell of a damn good minivan.
Oh, you got a
I
deal
mean,
on.
it was like my best buy I ever did on a vehicle. And I went and told my husband at the time, I'm like, "Hey, I just bought a minivan on eBay. We got to do a road trip." And he's like, "Cool."
Oh, right on. That's awesome.
Yeah. So we just like rented a minivan, drove all the kids out there, picked it up, drove that sucker home. It was great. It was great. And that's a kind of a risky thing to do these days. Like you don't want to go to another state and buy a vehicle because you might not make it home, you know?
Actually, yeah, or you just get ripped off, or
Right, right.
tax situation itself will screw you over. Like, oh man, I'll get taxed. What the hell?
Yeah, I mean, everything about it can get hairy. But, back in the day.
And it's crazy how bad the scams are in the world. Like, and then it could be
Yeah.
stopped so easy, but it's not.
Yeah, it's just another little industry. I'm really starting to feel like that's a dirty word. Industry.
Kind of is. The industry is very dirty.
Yeah.
Music industry, the food industry.
So I wanted to ask you too, it's kind of getting time to wrap it up, but I wanted to ask your opinion on all of this devastation that's happened. And God love everybody that's been in this from Florida all the way up to Kentucky, the Kentucky state line, because
Oh,
people in Kentucky were even affected. But there's so many people saying it's harp, it's harp, it's harp. And then there's other people who are saying this is cyclical, this is biblical, this is God. So where are you?
now granted, timing is everything. I think the
Agreed.
timing is very awkward. Does well, I don't even you don't even have to blame HARP. You'd be surprised what Doppler could do because they
Exactly.
Doppler itself is what controls where the storm goes. But
Yes.
yeah, is man-made weather stuff thing. If
Hmm.
geoengineering, it's real. It's all real. But
Yeah.
um, oh, man,
But typically you can see a signature that shows you too,
I
right? And so far I haven't seen anybody come up with any kind of maps and radars suggesting that
yeah.
that funky signatures showing up, right?
Exactly, yeah. Now, now, yes, I have a thing, especially with government. If you ever put this government in any kind of way, you first thing that's going to stop you in the place is incompetence. I mean, granted, some people are some probably decent people, but man, are they some either arrogant and lazy or just incompetent people. I was going through the state AG to get some stuff done, and they just fumbled everything. And this is not the first time. It's been other situations where the government fumbled. So this could be a thing where the government just completely fumbled. Maybe it's a little bit of addition went on, maybe with Doppler or something, but it is hurricane season, stuff that's happening. Is it a climate change thing? I don't think so. So it's either they wanted to hit a Republican stronghold swing state pretty hard, or they purposely had it done, or they had to destroy stuff. I honestly I think there is a agenda behind it, and that's the hurt of Republicans or a major swing state going Republican right before the election during hurricane season. It's really
Yeah.
fun, but I don't know if it is controlled or not, but was it is it being used to hurt Republicans and some of the maybe some Musk he came through Starlink over there, and I think they have a lot going on as far as like with elections. It's gonna have a smooth election. Trump is everything. I mean, everybody could kiss the way of life goodbye. But yeah, I think there's um, intent behind it to hurt the Republicans voting.
Yeah. So,
As far as
yeah.
I hear it, but it's like I can't feel it.
Yeah. So for me, I think it's kind of both, actually.
Yeah,
I think that it's biblical. I think that, it's intentional through God. It's divine um, earth changes that are happening versus, you know, climate change stuff. I don't think it's any of that. I think this is a cyclical thing that happens, you
yeah,
know, on God's time. Uh, with that being said, though, I also feel like um, there are certain people in certain authoritative positions that are capitalizing on this and taking full
yeah.
advantage of it because of the difference in the color of those states.
Yes, and that's why I told yeah, I'm 100% on page with that. Biblical,
Yeah.
I think anything could be biblical. But are we in biblical times? Oh, for sure. So I guess it
Yeah.
can be biblical,
Because,
but
I mean, dude, this is not just happening in the United States. I'm actually getting ready to put a whole piece together where this is happening worldwide right now. Like Indonesia's flooding, China, freaking Shanghai,
yeah.
China is flooded right now. I mean, their buildings were blown away by like cyclone winds, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely devastated them.
Typhoon zone.
Turkey, Saudi Arabia, like there's so many freaking places.
Locust.
Europe just got hit hard, and they even had their very first tornado ever, like a massive tornado. Our jet stream, north and south jet streams are out of freaking control right now.
Yeah.
I mean, they're losing it, but it's the whole planet. The whole planet is changing, you
Oh,
know. So that's why. Well, that and because
I can
there's
see why.
nobody coming
Yeah.
forward with harp signature type or Doppler signatures suggesting, this was modified or
Mhm.
amplified. You know, I feel like that points to this is. I mean, because I've expected this, right, for my
Right.
whole life now. I've expected to be seeing these kind of things, and that they have an uptick, and they start happening worldwide, and maybe even like a whole magnetic pole shift, the whole deal, right? Because it has happened in the past. But the numbers on that pole shift thing are so inconsistent that that's what led me to further believe that this really is like a choice thing for us.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it gets as bad as having the pole shift, and other times it's just a mud flood,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
You know what mud floods are?
Uh, yeah. When like the mud, I can't even think of the word of it. Like a mud avalanche type deal. Um, is that what you talking about? Like a
So we've been discovering that a lot of these cities, like San Francisco and different places, the buildings that are already there actually had like two or three different floors beneath them on
yeah,
the beneath the ground that's actually been covered up by some kind of mud, and then they just rebuilt on top of it.
yeah, that's why,
Right.
yeah, like the avalanche of mud that comes like crashing
Right.
down
Right.
on those
Right.
towns.
So like North Carolina is a perfect example of that right now. They're going to have buildings that are in a mud flood era, right?
Yeah,
Not full on catastrophe, but definitely biblical proportions, right?
yeah, enough to, yeah, you could dig that up 1,000 years from now or whatnot.
Right. And be like, whoa.
And
Yeah.
then, like, I don't know your philosophy, like on granted, this is good. This could be a whole episode with itself. Like me, I'm a 6,000-year-old creationist. Like I believe the universe is 6,000 years old. As far as like the pole shifts, one thing I was explained to, and I think it makes the most sense is like there really wasn't a pulse. It's just like times it was weaker or stronger. But yeah, like I'm on a 6,000 creation model, and the 7,000 would be the last 1,000 years of the God said he would recreate the world, and it would be the second world. So that yeah, that would be my belief, like because that would be have different logics. Like if you have like, okay, the universe is billions of years old, you're gonna have a certain logic upon things. Me, I think even though it's still old to me, but 6,000 year young creation. Um, there's like different sciences with it, you know what I mean? So it would bring different philosophies. So like me, I'm a 6,000 year creationist. I don't know, like
So what do you base that off of exactly? Because like we've got tree ring core samples, we've got ice core samples, different things that show that we did have magnetic pole shifts, and they were actually like tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of years ago, right?
with the rings are like a measurement of hot and cold, right? It doesn't have to be 1 year rings. That they call them annual rings. That multiple they have different not experiments, but certain situations that occur. They show that more rings happen in 1 year opposed to being annual,
Yeah,
one ring.
water can affect how thick the ring is. Uh,
Yeah.
cold can affect how thick the ring is, but each ring is another year. Is how
Well,
it goes. But it
that's how I
varies
explain
upon
it.
thickness. The thickness of each ring is how they read the data for like what type of weather, right? What type of climate that tree was in at that time or whatever. And
But
then
they had this. I'm
with
sorry.
the ice core samples, they're testing the carbon and the um all of the like the methane gas and different levels, like that's what they're testing for those
Oh
too.
yeah,
And iron, right? Because iron is a big thing about the magnetic pole shift, right?
yeah.
And then there's also been physical pole shifts as well, and we've had great scientists, Einstein, Charles Hapgood, um Chan, what's that guy Chan guy's name? Thomas Chan.
I
Lots
I
of
can talk about.
lots of people have wrote about, a physical pole
Yeah,
shift as well, but that's like
I
every
kind of believe that. Um,
700,000 or something.
yeah, because when you look at like certain Stonehenge or certain these astronomical things are supposed to like line up, but they don't because I think it has something to do with it. But as far as like they found a warplane from World War II, and it was like in a sheet of ice, but there was so many like they had thousands of layers or something like that on this piece of ice when it was only like so many years old. And that you could look into that one. World War II plane found in like I would Google it, like you could look into that one. But
Okay.
what the way I base my like how do I come to 6,000, right? Okay,
Yeah.
we have a known history. We could go back to like Egypt and all that. And then the Bible talks about it talks about known historical figures would be like Joseph and all that. So we have like this point of reference. Now, when you get to that point of reference, then you would go into Genesis, got what chapter is it, in the generations of it
Yeah.
touches it numerous times. And you could create a graph because it talks about how long they lived and when they had a kid
Mhm.
and how long their kid lived. And you could graph
Sure.
this graph on this. And if you go all the way back into Adam, it's roughly about 6,000, roughly 6,000 years. The flood was roughly
Hmm.
4,400 years ago. And when you go back to that time, like the Great Burial Reef, it's about 4,000 years old. All of our calendars align up to roughly about 4,000. Writing the civilization.
Well, actually, the calendar is about 5,600 years old. Um, because if you add up the BC and the AD, there's about 5,600 years there. Um, and
Exactly,
also,
about 6,000 years. So,
yeah, and I'll loosely agree with you on the Noah part because I'm my calculations that was about 3,600 years ago. But then Atlantis was 9,000 years ago, and we have now found a place in the Sahara Desert that matches the Atlantis description perfectly. So I feel like, and that's been dated to 9,000. The Sphinx was actually redated to about 11,000 years ago, and when it was inundated with flooding. And oh my God, they just found um, the city of Alexandria
yeah,
underneath of the Nile River,
yeah,
which is fantastic to me.
yeah.
And
That I
that would have
love
been
this stuff.
about 9 to 11,000 years ago.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But I get what you're saying. You're I lost you. Your
Oh,
volume's gone. There you go. I
my
can
bad.
hear you now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was gonna say like carbon dating, you have to look at like there's still a lot of assumptions that made. Now, does carbon 14 come off? Like it accurately, it can measure that, but as far as the dating aspect, it's like lighting a candle, how big it is, and trying to
Yeah.
judge how, granted now you can make assumptions, but that's what like a lot of it is assumptions because they try to a lot of people because in order for carbon 14 to work, you have to go off the geologic column. And
Mhm.
technically the geologic column really doesn't exist besides in textbooks. Now it happens in three places they want it to, but the flood um like you get all the layers in the dirt with the flood coming, hydrologic sorting, it would create the layers in quick time.
Yeah.
With like you talk about the wash, we got washed out ways like Grand Canyon. It wasn't a long that little river couldn't flow up the hill. It carved
Yeah.
them out, and we talk like the Sahara. I believe that would be someone around the flood, grand
Mhm.
or before the flood, where simple, if man's living to be 1,000, you're gonna have Atlantis type of civilization. When you think about it, you know how much you could learn in 1,000 years. If Noah's,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, so I do believe that humans had that gold. Every civilization's talked about the golden age where human lived,
Yeah.
you know, that's biblical too. I do believe
Mhm.
that. And and then there's a lot of things you could point at in the universe that puts a time constraint. Overall, the sun is shrinking. Now, granted, it kind of breathes, but it's still shrinking. So there's a time limit going back, right? We have lunar recession for how close the moon was. There's a time limit, and NASA puts that time limit at about 1 billion years. So, and then you go to the sun limit, they're saying that's roughly about 10,000 years. If you go back, it'd be so big, it would suck the, Earth in. If you go back, there's major problems if you go back. So when you start looking at the real science, empirical science, like it holds up a younger Earth. Like we still have arms and
Mhm.
galaxies. We could still see lunar eclipses, solar eclipses.
Oh, yeah. I mean, no
Yeah.
doubt.
So,
We're in
so that's why
we're
I
not
believe. That's why I believe
we're
what I base my belief off of is the 6,000 year thing and the Bible talking.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I totally agree. We are a young planet, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
I actually believe we have a young star, and that instead of it going backwards, it's going forwards.
Mhm.
Because in the visions that I've been shown of what causes these cataclysmic changes upon the earth, it's
Yeah.
actually our sun is getting an upgrade and it's going to do what's called a micronova. And so it actually appears to be shrinking until it implodes upon itself and does the burst. And when it does the burst, then it changes its color, changes its form,
That's an
and kind
interesting
of
theory.
grows up a little bit, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like we would look at the human development as it's maturing,
Yeah.
right? And in turn, and Einstein wrote a great paper about this actually. In turn, because of this micronova burst, all of the planets in our solar system also get an upgrade, right? And then everything that inhabits those planets also gets an upgrade. So it's kind of like Oprah on her stage going, "You get a new car, and you get a new car, and
Yeah,
you
really.
know, like." And I hate to use Oprah because I'm really frowning on her lately, but you get my point there, right?
Yeah.
You get my point.
It sounds. I hate to say use this word though. It sounds utopian in the sense, like everything is going to be all great, like brand new type deal.
Oh, I don't
It's
know
very.
about all that.
I never really like researched into that theory before. That's a very interesting concept, and it sounds beautiful. Just and the same thing with like the Jews and Christians teach, like the crystalline ice canopy that was around the Earth. It was like it created a hyperbaric chamber, which is why humans were able to live 1,000 years. Dinosaurs, which is terrible lizard, it wasn't the word dinosaur wasn't created until 1840 or 1860, and before then they were known to be dragons. Marco Polo talked
Yeah,
about dragons. The
yeah,
Bible talks about dragons and behemoth, who has sounds like a dinosaur, and so yeah, like um so that crystallized can, and that's why you have like big old dragonflies, like 6 feet, 10 feet big, is because it had that air pressure, because it goes
yeah,
by air mass, like this equation to how big they could possibly get. And the same thing with lizards, because lizards never stop growing. Your brow ridge never stops growing. So if you're living to be 1,000, you're gonna look like a Neanderthal. So all the
right.
cavemen were probably the really 6, 7, 800-year-old people they find. Not
Hmm.
Lucy though. Lucy was like a construct to uphold evolution. I think is, yeah, not great, but because you got like a few bones and they're like, look at this man, half monkey. Like, no,
Right,
that's only a few.
right,
You put a whole theory on your bone. You could believe it.
right.
I hate the fact that they teach this to kids though in public schools. Like,
Yeah, I do too. And back to your talk, you were saying about how everything
Atlas
was so much
canopy.
everything it was so much bigger. I
Yeah,
think even humans, right? Like that could
the
explain
giants.
giants, right? That's why
Yeah.
giants were here before we got created, right? Because I mean,
Hmm.
it even says in Genesis during the flood that there were giants in the land then and after the flood, right?
And
And
he mentions the Nephilim too.
they were probably like the leftover, but the Bible never actually says that those giants are the Nephilim. That's
Yeah,
something that
exactly.
we
Yeah,
that's
but they
something that
did.
we cross stories there and we
Yeah,
assume. That's an assumption.
well,
I
there,
think
there's
I
one's
think
assumption.
they were the remnants of that other world before things changed,
Which is
right?
very, very possible. Yeah, I find that very plausible. And the same thing they mentioned too with Goliath. Like they said he was also a giant, but he was also one of the Nephilim or something like that. I don't know if you ever heard that concept before.
Sure.
Which is
Sure, but
granted, he could be both.
I'm
Yeah.
not talking his size giant. I'm talking like 35 feet tall
Oh,
people.
the biggins. Yeah, the big,
The really big guys, right?
the 10
With the,
footers.
because like we've got the massive trees that actually now look like petrified rock, but it's if you test it, it's wood, you know.
Yeah,
Like we had massive mushrooms that are still here today in a fossilized form that we think
yeah.
are like rock formations.
Why don't we see this anymore today?
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
They should, they technically should, but no, like
yeah,
there were specific conditions for this to happen, and that's why I believe, like, when that's why I love the creation thing, because it teaches all this and it really explains things scientifically, like that evolution can't. There's or it's
yeah,
fake. It's fake. Like you can't sit there and tell me that's fake. Marco Polo was writing
yeah.
the Chinese has dragons and everything. No, like come on.
Right, right, right. And I don't like Darwin's theory of evolution anyway. I think it's totally wrong. I think totally it's wrong in
Yeah,
so many ways.
his yeah, there's a lot of stuff wrong with his life, and poor how God forbid,
Yeah.
poor soul, but what he did with his kids and all that, like,
Right. I mean, that's kind of like our modern thing now with, learning about these celebrities that are really quite sinister demonic people behind the doors, right? Behind closed doors. These people in history that we have in our history books we're teaching to our children are not the people that we're told that they are, you
yeah,
know,
the
in
great
real life.
mistake.
Yeah, and I mean, Ben Franklin didn't really discover electricity, by getting electrocuted with a kite, and he wasn't a very nice from what I've the from the research I've learned, he wasn't a very nice person behind closed doors, and there's many others like that, right? Many, many others.
Or
They're
my favorite
examples,
is the Blair Witch
right?
trial. Well, not the Blair Witch, but the witch trials.
The
But
Salem witch
Salem, yeah,
trials.
the Salem. I call it the Blair Witch, Salem witch trials.
That
Yeah,
was nuts.
that wasn't what it was like taught out to be. Like it was that
No.
style cult stuff going on. That's who they were
Yeah.
putting down.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
Just think a whole society would go nuts like that. Oh, she's a witch, burn her. Like no, that's not. Well, you think that happened? That they had this superstition out of just blank slate out of history nowhere. Oh, a bunch of people decided to burn women's and just call them witches. Like, no, like then that's one part of history you could tell they manipulated because it makes no sense when they teach it like that. You got to learn what a witch is. It's kind of like an MC, a master of ceremony. And yeah, what they like all this Halloween stuff. There are and that's why I go back with religion. You go back to its foundation. You stand under it. If you want to understand it, you stand under it and look up at it. And that's what you do with the foundations of everything. You want to know how this building,
yeah,
you look at the foundation, and that's
yeah,
you get these witches and all this stuff. Like it's a
right.
dark world,
And
very
yeah, I mean, you really have to look into it deeper, do some research, really dig into history, understand it better, even understand the other languages because a lot of things got changed in translation, you
yes.
know.
Like you mentioned
Um,
calendars too. You kind of you're right about that. There was the switch with the Roman calendar when I was talking, as far as like the age or whatever, of the earth.
there's some fuckery there.
There's a lot. That's why you can't pinpoint it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of fuckery.
And
So,
and I'll be the first to say as a Christian, like Christmas is not about Jesus' birthday. Like, well, what about worshiping false idols? What about Monday, Tuesday? You ain't worshiping them. Like that's a fight that you're not gonna win, so why worry about it? Now, granted, I'm gonna take Christmas and worship Jesus on that day, but that's not his birthday. I believe it was September 11th. That's why the Islam did what they did, but that's a belief. I can't. No one could
I
prove
think
that.
I actually think that he was probably born somewhere between August and September because it says very clearly that the shepherds were in the field.
Yeah,
They ain't gonna be out in the field when it's winter time.
yeah,
They
yeah.
didn't do
So you
that
probably
shit.
agree with probably September 11th is
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, September in the zodiacs is Virgo, and Virgo is the Virgin.
Virgin. Yep.
And anytime we're talking biblical stuff and the signs in the sky, celestial wise, we always look to the Virgin constellation of Virgo.
Yeah,
And is she boring the child yet? Right? If
yeah,
she bears, if the alignment works out to where she looks like she's given birth, we're looking at Virgo to see if there's another whatever kind of constellation underneath of her to see if she's given birth, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Man.
that's in the Bible. Like that stuff's in the Bible, man.
Yeah. See, I love to like I love that you know all this stuff because like it's hard to have conversations with people where it gets into a dead end. You say something like people are like, what? You're like,
Yeah, I
okay,
know.
I can't. I can have a limited circle of I could have these deep conversations
Yeah.
with. I know I got people waiting on to see this podcast and all that, like, because they know what I could get into. And this is actually really fun. And whether a disagreement or agreement, whatever it is, like I enjoy it. It's healthy,
Yeah.
and I hope people who listen actually learn. And even you can even direct, like if we, which I would like to do another one, if someone wants to, like, hey,
Oh, yeah.
have questions, I would love to do a Q&A or anything, that'd be awesome.
That would
But
be cool. That
yeah,
would be cool. Maybe we can do a live sometimes and do Q&A. That would
oh,
be
I'm
awesome.
down for that. Yeah,
And I'm definitely down for doing more podcasts because I mean I'm with you. There's not too many people you can talk to about this kind of stuff that they understand and can carry on a conversation with you. I mean, a
yeah,
lot of times I find myself, no offense to anybody, but I have to dumb it down and not go too far over the top, or
yeah,
you could hear a pin drop in the room from the things I say because everybody's just like, "What? What did she just
yeah.
say?"
And sometimes, like when you touch on one subject, you have to touch on another at the same time, so you actually understand the big picture. So it's like you're jumping all, you're looking like a madman, like like
Yep.
no, like I love talking
And
to
they did.
someone who knows it, and the same thing with like we could respectfully disagree and still love each other. And we could, and
Absolutely.
that's one thing is like people they want to get mad and take it personal. Like it's okay, we disagree
Right.
on that. Like if you
Yeah.
want to believe in a billion years, like I don't care. Like
Yeah.
but me, I'll just follow the science. I want to find truth, and that's what my pursuit is truth. I
Yep.
want to be
Me
able to
too.
contribute to the world and make a better world for everyone.
Yeah. And honestly, at the end of the day, I think the only real difference between us is maybe that you just trust the science a little more than I do because I'm such a conspiracy minded
Yeah,
person. And
yeah.
with all the shit I've already learned, I'm just like, how accurate is science really? You
Yeah.
know, because I don't buy the whole, changing of the climate narrative. I'm not on board with that.
Well, I believe
Um,
it, but I don't think it's what they make of it.
because well,
Not man made.
right. That's their narrative though,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I
Yeah,
mean,
they
this
want
is
to tax
this
us
is
to
this
breathe.
is this is on God's time, man.
Exhale.
People are not people are not big enough to really make that kind of drastic change. But I'm sorry, we're just not. That's
Yeah,
my opinion of it. And I think the data actually shows that. Um, and I used to get into some pretty heated debates with some people that I know personally that actually went to school and learned that science,
but
right?
yeah,
Where that
it's relevant
dogma,
though. Yeah,
and they didn't want to look at anything else. Like they did not have the eyes to see anything else other than what they were taught in college about this
yeah.
subject.
And that's not even true liberalism. That's the sad part. Like I would be a true liberal
Yeah,
in the sense of the meaning of what it's supposed to be, but I'm conservative. But yeah, like I've had the same thing where some people just want to take it personal, or like they're really that close-minded to where it's like, well,
yeah,
um, like I could take both ends. Like I always reserve possibilities, or I reserve that as like you mentioned with the sun, the kind of a new sun theory. Like
right,
I reserve that as a possibility. I think that's a pretty
right,
cool theory. I haven't heard that before, but like I like the ideal of it. I'm not
yeah,
shut down to it. But me, like I want to stick on like what's true because if I want to find truth, I want to actually follow truth. Like with the science that does work or makes sense or
yeah,
granted, like I said with gravity, like you could argue gravity is a science, but I'm just gonna use the word like, okay, I want to stand up and I'm being held to the planet that's spinning. I don't believe in flat Earth.
yeah.
I'm not.
I don't either. I
Yeah,
think that flat Earth stuff is silly.
and yeah, well, there's a lot of stuff that makes the conspiracy community look, and I
Yeah,
don't want to affiliate with it because I'm not a conspiracy theory. I'm more of a factual type person where like
yeah,
a lot of conspiracies are factual. So
that's true.
it's where the facts are, and that's where I like to go to. Until it could be proven otherwise, I could reserve it as a possibility or dismiss it. And so there are things I would have on the both sides, but as far as what's factual is what's factual, um, and so for me, like the 6,000 years, I find it like a little more unreasonable to think that a rock that was spinning around at it's absolute zero, which is at negative 450 degrees. Nick, negative 450 degrees. So you got a rock spinning negative 450 degrees for billions of years and it's still cold. We still have like meteors on or comets still on fire and all that. I can't buy that. You know what I mean? I think the
Right.
science was so that it would cool down. I haven't seen anything else that could add a third party to keep that rock hot. But right now, like the universe, that alone kind of dismisses the whole old universe thing to me. And now, granted, someone could believe in that, but as far as what's factual, I think it's kind of your personal preference on logic. My logic, I like what God teaches in the Bible. I got to go that route. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but I'm open-minded though. So like I don't completely shut everything down, but that's who I am,
Right.
me, and
And it's all good, doesn't
oh,
matter.
definitely,
At
yeah.
the end of the day, I love the great conversations. I like the flavor of us conversing together. I hope the audience enjoyed our conversations tonight, and they don't have to believe anything we had to say either.
Yeah, discernment. Use discernment.
Use
Look for
discernment.
yourself.
Yeah. If
Just
it
like
feels
Q.
right,
If you want to know
if
what
it
Q is,
feels right, yeah. Yeah.
look for
Go ahead.
Q clearance. Q clearance is just it's a classification. Look, yeah, I would just definitely just look into that. It's a classification. So in order, so you don't break the laws on releasing classified information, you could ask questions. There's ways around it. You can ask questions, share articles, point to it. Hey, once you read that, take that in, or ask a question. What if that, that you're not violating classification rules and laws as far as the Q, especially the Q, that would be the nuclear aspect of the current classification that's up with the presidency. So if people
Right.
want,
Because
he
Q
was,
clearance is the highest level of
yeah.
clearance in
So
our
yeah, I was wanting to
security.
explain that earlier. It just clicked right now, and I'm like, let me hurry up and explain that so people understand what it is, instead of just jumping to the media version. Oh, it's a cryptic, radical.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to look into it yourself. Use discernment.
Yeah.
Eat the
Don't
meat, spit out
necessarily
the bone.
don't necessarily trust the web search engine.
Oh, that's all. Yeah, that's all you're gonna see is the article. It's brainwash. The brainwash system just
Yeah.
clears. Boom.
Yeah.
Uh,
So, James, it's been a great conversation.
so
Um, I look forward to seeing you again
for
next
sure.
Thursday.
Hey, we could make it
Why
happen.
not? All
Yeah, sure.
right. All right. Until
Thanks
then,
for having me. God bless you guys.
God bless. Be well, everybody.